The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need. Live.
Hello, everybody. Very good evening, and welcome to the Locker Room on Independence Live. I'm Mr. Dave. Hope you're all good and looking forward to the show. Yes, the show in question is a little bit. Yeah, it wasn't exactly planned. We had planned to start at 3 o'clock, but there's also a shortage of people to help out tonight. So I spoke to the editor, Michael McCure, and I went and said to Michael, I'm going to go on at 6 or 7 o'clock tonight. Obviously, speak about the games today, and obviously, we've got a lot to get through. The games yesterday as well, of course. We'll start with Rangers. What we plan to do, by the way, as well, obviously, I'll give you our thoughts on the games, but also what we'll do alongside that as well, do the press conferences involving the managers, just so you don't have to. We're going to do this for an hour, but it's just so you don't have to listen to me speaking for an hour. So, hope you enjoy what you're going to listen to it. Rangers 4, Hibs 0 to start things off. I was surprised how poor Hibs were because when they went forward, they looked kind of a threat, but Rangers, when they were too open Hibs, both defensively and defensively. And when Rangers had their chances, they took them with authority. People are going saying, why is Dessers scoring? And Hibs must be poor if they're scoring. There is a certain argument to that, but at the same time as well, he took his goal tremendously well. But yeah, I think 2 or 3 of the goals from his perspective, are incredibly disappointed. And sort of a Nick Montgomery to work on. A few guys coming in here. We'll start with Gregor McIntosh, a guy who probably must have been bored last night was Gregor. Obviously, no game for Dundee. I also say around the corner from Tawdry, and obviously, I was out for a walk around about Aberdeen last night. Actually, it was very, very quiet when about Aberdeen area last night. So, yeah, obviously, never nice, and obviously, good to hopefully Dundee get back in action on Tuesday against Ross County. That's going to be an interesting game that on Tuesday. Dundee are still undefeated in October, aren't they? So, yeah, interesting game. Lies and wait for that one, of course. Now, yeah, back at yesterday, Ibrox and Rangers. I don't think you can read too much. I don't know if you guys agree. More than happy for you guys to obviously send in your comments, but I don't know if we're going to see this from Clement moving forward in terms of Rangers obviously playing at the final thirds, asking opposition sides questions, all that kind of stuff, or if there is going to be a degree of, or if there is going to be a degree of we're sitting back and it'll be the same old usual. For me, I think Rangers played differently to what they played under Beale yesterday, and that'll probably plays an aspect as far as Celtic are concerned. So they can take a lot of points out of that. And yeah, I mean, Dessers took his goal. Sima, I thought was tremendous yesterday for Rangers, and they just had a lot of quality all over the park. And for a side that's been rather underwhelming, I don't think it's a bad team. I don't think Rangers are a bad team. It's just I think they've been playing for. I just think they've been underperforming for the previous manager that's been in place, and that's been the most disappointing thing. So, as I said to you guys, I'm going to do the story a little bit differently. We are going to go and listen to Philippe Clement. It's a bit of a long interview, this one. I'll take my headphones off because we'll need to listen to it, of course. Excuse me for that. We will go and listen to Philippe Clement, who gave his thoughts after the game yesterday. Oh, just a minute.
What next year about the way you approach this today? Um, Rest is a
I was going to give you all the interview, but it appears to be that the interview is a little bit low in volume. It must be my phone. So I apologise for that. But anyway, he also speaks about obviously how they played both on and off the ball, and that's a pleasing aspect as far as Philippe Clermont's concerned. For Nick Montgomery and himself, I was astonished actually to read last night that was his first league defeat, because as much as Nick Montgomery has brought a difference to Easter Road, I don't think he's had a honeymoon period as such. However, what I would say on the matter is that I think Hibs have had a degree of who's this? Well, no, sorry, somebody was texting me now. I think Hibs have had a couple of disappointing displays. Tynecastle, in particular, Kilmarnock to a certain extent as well, even despite having the healthy lead that they did within the game. I think they've got a lot to improve on moving forward. Hibs. Celtic next week in Aberdeen. It's funny because if he goes those two games within the next few weeks, it'll be 3 losses in a row. And the Hibs fans, even though he's started very well in Leaf, or not spectacularly well, but he's started well, the Hibs fans might get on to him a little bit, because that's 2 important games for Hibs. It's against a Celtic side that, yeah, they're doing tremendously well just now. Against a Celtic side, sorry, they're doing tremendously well on the Brendan Rodgers just now, but at the same time, if they go was these next 2 games, what would you look at it? Do you look at it and say 3 in the bounce alongside a mixture of draws? Or do you look at it on the other hand and say improvement Easter Road? Yeah, I don't know how to look at it from a Hibs perspective. They obviously drew with Dundee as well, and that was 0-0. And what I will say on the matter is, I don't think it's not a Nick Montgomery Hibs team. Obviously, it's his players that he's inherited. However, I think that he needs to get backed by the Hibs board in January if he possibly can, because if he was to go and get backed by the Hibs board in January, and then between that January to the top 6 split period, if he was to have a poor run at results, I think it's not a good look whatsoever. I think the I think I think people would be pointing the finger again, and that's never a good look. But what I would say is, I think he's been dealt off hand a bit, Nick. That's why I think. Well, I've got somebody jumping on with me actually. What I was going to say is, I think I think I think Nick got a rough hand with the players he had, and yeah, it was never a good look from his perspective. By the way, we're going to have a special guest join us in a couple of minutes. I mean, he didn't have to. He's busy with family right now. But we're going to have a special guest join us in a couple of minutes. Gregor, just before he comes on, because we're going to have Graham Duffy coming on. I'm led to believe. Uh, Gregor McIntosh comes back in here saying the Dundee game was called off because of Storm Barrett. Yeah, absolutely, Gregor. I'm from Aberdeen, so I've had to deal with the worst of it. I was in St Andrews on Thursday, just doing some work stuff. Um, and thankfully, the Tay Road Bridge was open on the way back, which meant I was able to obviously go and do my own thing. But yeah, when the road's been shut since Thursday evening, the A90 is still not open. If you want to travel from Aberdeen to Dundee, you need to go via Montrose or Brough, Strahaven. You can't go on the A90. Or you can go via Braemar, of course, but Braemar would be a bit difficult to go via. So yeah, not ideal. I'm confident that Dundee will be back in action Tuesday, especially with United obviously playing yesterday against Partick Thistle when they had to travel from Dundee all the way up to Mary Hill, of course. But yes, not ideal. And I know a lot of Aberdeen fans, a lot of Dundee fans were excited by the prospect and the possibility of this game last night. 6 o'clock kickoff, of course. So yeah, majorly, massively disappointed for all associated. And yeah, not a good look whatsoever. So yeah, 10 minutes in. Final word on the Rangers game before I go to Hearts. Thankfully, hopefully Graham will be on by the time we get the Hearts game on. But I think for the Rangers game, I think when you look at that game in great detail, six games in 20 days, if I'm not mistaken, 7 and 21 yesterday, but obviously the first start game, so that's 6 and 20 now. And if he could get through this period with probably 4 wins or 5 wins, I think the Rangers fans would be looking at that and going, a great start. And I think that's the fine line behind Philippe Clement, because if he can go and start this period very extremely well, then it kind of gives him a bit of leeway, because Beale, yeah, he started this tenure off very, very well, Beale, but ultimately, Michael Beale lost too many important games in his role as Rangers manager. That's ultimately what cost him his job. I mean, when you look at the stats in question, there wasn't anything massively defining as such. Ultimately, he lost the Glasgow Derbies. Ultimately, he lost games against Aberdeen and the Hibs and whatever have you. But yeah, totally different picture at Ibrox now. And what I will say as well, but I'll leave this pretty brief, is I think it's disgusting. I'm not trying to say for 1 minute that it's every single Hibs fan that did this and whatever have you, but I'm presuming he's not a Hibernian regular. I'm presuming he's not a Hibernian season ticket holder, or the group are Hibernian season ticket holders, I should say. However, I think it's utterly disgusting that the events of 66, the events previously where obviously 66 people died at Ibrox was brought up yesterday. Yeah, as much as people will, I think it works both ways. I'm not condoning what men's sexual imagination, but I think it works both ways, because I know obviously opposition sides, it's notorious when they go to Ibrox at times. That's part and parcel of football, I suppose, but yeah, not a good look whatsoever by the scenes caused at Ibrox on yesterday after the game, and I think that just goes to show you. I don't think it'll be interesting to see what happens after this. Does the SPFL and the SFA go and throw the book at Hibs? Probably, but as I say, it's probably somebody that has no affiliation to Hibs whatsoever. It's probably somebody that was there just for a go at somebody, and that's not a good look. I mean, as Rangers said in their statement last night, there's a lot of families still hurted by what happened, and there's a massive saying, both nowadays and back in the day, that you should never go to a game and return home. Not return. You should never go to a game. Sorry, and not return home. You should always be able to enjoy a day, maybe get a few beers with your mates, or go get some lunch, dinner, whatever have you, explore the fine scenery Scotland offers, and then obviously go and do your own thing at night time, whether you want to go out for a couple more beers after the game, or go home and watch shit like I'm dancing or whatever have you. So yeah, I'm massively disappointed end to proceedings from what was a decent game of football. Obviously, they just come out on top, winning by 4 goals-0. 14 minutes in. God, I'm ready for my bed. He's not on yet, so I probably won't get a good 15 minutes squabby again by the time he's on, but I'll start. Hearts 1, Celtic 4. Quite simply disappointing. Yeah. Oh, here he is. Great timing. He must have heard the word Hearts. And come on. I'll see if he's ready. You wasn't busy with the family, was you, Graham?
No, it's all right. I'm finished with him now, so all good.
Right, Graham, I'll let you take it away. Where did it all go wrong for Naismith and Hearts this afternoon?
From kickoff, I mean, I didn't expect a lot from that game today. What I expected was a performance. I thought we'd be in Celtic's faces for the start. I said before the game on another Hearts show as well that we had to not let Hatate and McGregor dominate the game. I thought playing Alec Lowry, I know I played him because he played well against Hibs, but I didn't think it worked today. I think we need another midfielder in there, and it didn't happen. And the one thing you can't do when you play the Old Firm is lose an early goal. within 3 minutes, we give ourselves no chance. Don't get me wrong, great play by Palmer, great ball into O'Reilly, but nobody tracks the run. It's a great finish. 1-0 down early on, you're thinking, right, can Hearts get back in this? 2-0 down after 20 minutes. It's a long way back, but Naismith talks about it. Every goal we've lost has been really poor defensively, but we didn't do enough. We didn't get in the face, we didn't press them, we didn't harry them. We just made it far too easy. And it's happening too often now. That's 3 wins in our last 44 against Celtic. It's unacceptable for a team that wants to be third in the league. It's unacceptable. And it's happening just far too often. We are far too easy to play against. It's far, far too soft. I think Naismith's come out after the game and spoke about the fact we're losing soft goals. We are, but it's not good enough. At Tynecastle, you can't be as timid as that. We were just so far off it today. Celtic didn't even break sweat. It was far, far too easy. Brendan Rodgers got his tactics spot on, but you've got to make it difficult. Look at St Johnstone go to Celtic Park and get a 0-0 draw. Motherwell, unlucky to concede in the last minute, could have got a draw. Kilmarnock have beaten Celtic up at Rugby Park. We never look likely to do that. And these next few games now, we've got Rangers next week at Ibrox. We've then got them in the League Cup at Hampden Park. I'm worried what Hearts are going to be this season. 11 points out of 27, given the fixtures we had at the start of the season. It's not good enough. And today is another example of why I've already said I think Naismith is not good enough at this job.
It's funny because there is this perception that he should never get sacked after getting a defeat against an old firm for a manager of like a Hibs, a Hearts, an Aberdeen, whatever have you. But I know from an Aberdeen perspective, a certain part of Jim Goodwin getting the orders that he did was to a degree after Celtic and Rangers games last year, the way in which Aberdeen played in those games in the festive period. Exact same thing could happen for Naismith at Hearts in a couple of weeks' time.
It could. I mean, this semi-final is massive now. We're going to have, 18,000 at the game if we get any more tickets. It's a big, big occasion for Hearts. We've not won the League Cup for 61 years. It's a big opportunity for us. This Rangers side, yes, they won 4-0 yesterday very comfortably, but I still don't think they're as good a side. Philip Clement got a great win yesterday, but we've got to be going on their faces and really competing in that game. And unfortunately, today we didn't do that. And the irony is that against Celtic recently, we have competed better. Like you look at the game last season under Nazy, we got beat 2-0. But the first half we played really well. Till Cochran got sent off, we competed, we were really good. Today was night and day from that. We never got in their faces, never made it difficult. I felt really sorry for Neuenhoff and Devlin because they were just outnumbered in that midfield like I knew they would be. Celtic played that 3, Hatate, O'Reilly, McGregor. We never matched that, which I think we should have done. We looked slightly better when Liam Boyce came off the bench. I actually thought he was decent today. But there's not many players that I can give pass marks to. And that semi-final now becomes huge. But, I mean, all over Twitter just now and all over Hearts chats that I'm in, everybody wants Naismith out. But it's not just today. It's recent performances. You look at the Hibs game, 2-0 up. We lose 2 goals really poorly. The substitutions didn't work. St Mirren game a few weeks ago were really poor. Dundee, really poor. We've only won 1 league game at home this season. That's not good enough. Hearts have got to be better than that. And unfortunately, I just think this job is far too big for Naismith. We made a mistake appointing Ian Cathro, and I think we've done the exact same thing with Stephen Naismith.
It's a funny way to look at it here, Graham, but I'm gonna pose a very honest question here. Hearts are renowned for being well run off the park with Budge and Savage and all these people that are obviously running the show at Hearts on a daily basis. But I'm getting the same feeling about Aberdeen. Obviously, we've got Burrows, we've got Dave Cormack, we've got all these powerhouses involved in the boardroom at Pittodrie. But at the same time, obviously, Barry Robson's came at Aberdeen and made that difference in terms of he's obviously the energised for Hearts, but let's be honest, Aberdeen, sorry, but let's be honest, the 3 previous appointments made by Cormack was poor, and they were all decent managers within their own specific rights. Do you get the feeling that Hearts could be in that same picture where they're well run at boardroom level, but in terms of appointing the right caliber of manager, it's just not simply there?
It's funny you mentioned that because one of the Hearts podcasts that I follow, This Is My Story, they've actually said the exact same thing. Everything off the park is really good, but on it, the managerial appointments have not been good enough. Now, you can look at Robin Nielsen and say, and I have said before, I think Nielsen did a far better job than a lot of folk give him credit for. Promoted twice for the Championship, first time of asking. He finished third twice, was second when he went to MK Dons. He actually did well. Craig Levein didn't really work, but he got to a cup final. And I think the decisions that we make on the park are nowhere near good enough. Off the park, we look really good. We've got a really nice stadium. We've got the hotel sorted. Kebab pies are apparently great. Off the park, everything looks great. But on the park, we're making far too many mistakes in terms of management. Stephen Naismith, for me, I genuinely don't think he'll get a bigger job than Hearts. And I understand why he's taking the job on. Like, if you get a job offer to come to Hearts, you're not going to turn that down. It's a bit like Barry Robson at Aberdeen. Once he gets that job, he's not going to turn that down. But I don't think Naismith will get a bigger job than Hearts. And I think this is going to fall badly. Now, I said when he got the job in June, I used the word cheap option. And I think that still rings true for me. I think it was a cheap option. You look at Barry Robson, maybe hasn't had the best of starts this season, but what I see with Aberdeen, they've got an identity, which I don't see under Naismith yet. I don't see a style of football. And again, I mentioned the fact a while ago on the show with Michael on that. I've talked about the fact that last season, Barry Robson got a statement win against Rangers at Pittodrie. He's got a statement win at Ibrox as well. Naismith's not had that yet. Today was his chance to do that, and it's failed massively.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll go back to Hearts in a bit, but we'll concentrate on Celtic here. They're not winning the games spectacularly. Yes, they're winning games. They're not doing it in handsome fashions. Yes, they're dominant today, but the point I'm trying to get at with Celtic here is that they're winning games, but it's not like they're doing it with a scruff of the neck. But at the same time, it's not like they're doing it handsomely either. It's not like they're absolutely brushing teams aside with handsomely or in a commanding manner.
No, I don't think they are. I don't think they've really blown anyone away. I mean, I don't think we've seen a 90-minute performance from Celtic yet, and I'm sure that Michael and Ricken would admit that as well. But they are winning, and that's what you need to do. You know, at Ibrox, they weren't great, but they won the game 1-0. Today, they didn't have to be good to beat us. That's the thing that really annoys me most, is the fact that Celtic have not had to be brilliant to win that game today. We've made it far too easy. But I do think that Celtic will get stronger. We're only in October. I think they will get stronger. They've got two very difficult games to come against Atletico Madrid in midweek and the next one. But I think they will get stronger. But they aren't, for me, firing on all cylinders yet. And that is a worry for the rest of the league because they're still coasting it so far. Now, I don't think today they were great. And I think even if you look at the games that they have won, Motherwell, they were very fortunate to win that game. They only put 3 past Dundee. They drew 0-0, as I mentioned, against St Johnstone. They've not been fantastic. Michael asked me on Friday, I think it was, do I see a difference between Postecoglou's side and Brendan Rodgers' side? I think there is a slight difference in the fact that I think Postecoglou's side were on the front foot every single game. They played pressing football. Haven't really seen that yet under Brendan Rodgers, but I'm sure it will come. But yeah, I don't think they've really blown anyone away yet. But as I said, the worry thing is, I do think that will come.
Absolutely. Back on the Hearts. Where do they go from here? Because, as you say, there was that Rangers game at Cooper Curtains for Naismith. Then the tide of the table can change within a matter of weeks and months. At the same time, you get the feeling that if Hearts don't improve, we're seeing the picture very, very often now, that if you don't improve in your results at this stage of the season, the owners and boardrooms at the clubs are often aligned to go and change managers and go and change personnel within a club.
I think the one thing that you kind of see from the likes of Budge, Savage, McKinlay is they don't really fire managers very quickly. They give them a lot of time, sometimes wrongly. And I think they're going to give Naismith a lot longer than he deserves. Listen, he could turn it around. I don't think he will. I don't think he's got the experience to do it. But where we go from here, we've got Ibrox next Sunday. That already is a write-off for me. And I hate saying that, but I think that's a write-off. Then after that, we've got Livingston in midweek at home. That's a must-win game for me. If we don't win that, then that's really going to be curtains for me. If he doesn't beat Livingston at home, then that really is a really disastrous run of form. We then play, I think, our next 2 league games after the Cup game are Motherwell away and St Johnstone away. Again, not easy games those. St Johnstone at home, Motherwell away. We don't have a great record at Fir Park, so he's under pressure, right? He's under pressure straight away. And like I said, for me, 11 points out of a possible 27 for a club like Hearts isn't good enough. And I think the game at Ibrox next week, I know during the week he'll come out and say, we're working really hard, we're going to put things right. They're just words. He's got to go to Ibrox next week and put in a performance. I don't think we will, but I genuinely am worried about, and I said on one of the live streams earlier on, I honestly think Hearts could finish bottom 6 this season. And I hate saying that, but unless we bring a manager in with experience, because I mean, I'm going to ask you this question, Dave. I mean, you look at that Hearts squad, you look at the Aberdeen squad, you look at the Hibs squad. Do you still think that Hearts squad is the third best squad outside of the big two, or do you think there's better squads out there?
I've said it from the outset that I felt there was better squads out there. I'll give you a 5-a-side team right now, right? My 5-a-side team will involve Aberdeen, Hearts, and Hibs players. My goalie would be Craig Gordon if he was fit. But I'm going to tell you specifically at this moment in time, I'd probably go for Kilroos. Because Zander Clark, he's in the Scotland squad and everything like that, but at the same time, I think his performances have been a little bit underwhelming, in comparison to the performances and the standards that he delivered at St Johnstone. So I'd probably go for Kilroos as my goalie, because David Marshall's, as much as he's a decent enough goalie himself, yesterday was, I'm not going to use the word shambolic, because that's a big word to say. But yesterday, in terms of playing the ball at the back, making the wrong choices with passes, it quite simply just wasn't good enough for a goalie of his calibre. So I'm going to go for Kilroos as my goalie. But if I was a team, so I'll have to pick a defender, 2 midfielders, or a striker, or whatever have you. So defender out of those. Oh, right, okay. I'm going to go for, based on who's available, I don't think Hibs offer anything defensively. Hearts are a bit open defensively themselves. And I'm not meaning to sound biased here when I come out and say this, but I'm going to go and say when he's finally in all form, I'm going to go Angus MacDonald. No, I'm going to go Rubezic. We'll go Rubezic right this minute in time, because Rubezic has been a very good player for Aberdeen and slowly evolving in life in Scottish football. So I'm going to go for Rubezic, because quite simply, Hibs, as I said, offer nothing, and Hearts are still very, very open for me. So I'm going to go for Rubezic. My 2 midfielders, now that's a good question. Probably Devlin. Yeah, I'll go for Devlin for one of the midfielders, just because of his tenacity and his work ethic, the way he gets about, the way in which you go and score cracking goals like goalie scoring against Park, and the way in which he'll get about the park. I think a lot of teams around Europe, not just Scottish football for that precise matter, would love a player like Cammy Devlin. I think he would offer so much. So I'm going to go for Devlin. My other player, I'm going to go for Sherry, just because of the tough tackling. Joel Newell's a massive player for Hibs as well, and he would probably get a shout in here. Yeah, as much as I'd love to be biased and say Sherry, I'm going to go for Joel Newell, because I think Joel Newell would offer a lot. This 5-a-side team is tough tackling. Also, he'll get about the park, and he's been understandably, he's been outstanding for him. He's been one of the better players so far this season, and he's put in a power of work. My striker's Shankland, just because 6 yard areas is going to score goals. So that team, I've picked 2 Aberdeen, I've picked 2 Hearts, and I've picked 1 Hibs, which means Hearts still have decent individuals. I don't think they have a good team, and that's where I think that when they don't have the balance just now, that's where I don't think they're getting enough consistency. But Hearts better be wary as well, Graham, and you'll understand this, because if Hearts don't make top 6 this year, Shankland will want away, Devlin will want away, Gordon, it's unclear what he'll do, but obviously he's on his last legs as a goalie. Zander Clark might want away. Halkett, perhaps. I know he's coming back from injury, to my understanding. Halkett's probably a player I would have put in that five-side team there because I'm a really big fan of Halkett, but Rubezic has obviously sat the season very well at Aberdeen. But as much as they've got injuries at the same time, there's senior players in that team that are not delivering, and that's the fine lines.
I know you made a really good point actually on. I know we're talking about Hearts, but you made a good point on Twitter yesterday when you talked about Hibs, and you mentioned the fact that they went to Ibrox and tried to play it for the back. Do you think that was naivety from Nick Montgomery? I mean, they must know what Rangers are going to do, and to try and play it for the back. And don't get me wrong, Hibs have got decent players, but to try and play it for the back with the players that Hibs have got, did that show signs of naivety from Nick Montgomery?
Absolutely. I said it at the top of the show, actually, that I felt from Nick Montgomery's perspective, as they are playing the back absolutely, but at exactly the same time, as he wanted to play a possession-based style football, which works in Scottish football, absolutely, but there's ways and means of going about it. This player from the back is quite simply not going to work. Let's be honest, this side just saying that we're very, very low in confidence prior to something. I know they've both got a bit of motivation and a bit of lift with Philippe Clement coming as manager. They've probably worked on, Philippe's kind of said it himself, they'll have worked on things like high press and get the players' faces and all that. You seen that difference from them yesterday. But at the same time, excuse me, at the same time, they're obviously, in terms of Marshall, he was playing either the wrong passes or he wasn't hoofing it up the park. And I'm not a massive fan of being totally direct, being in a football team. But at the same time, you've got to mix it up. You can't just be playing ball out from the back all the time because had that been trying to give you an example here, had that been a St Mirren, had that been I'm going to put Kilmarnock in this bracket, had that been a Motherwell, had that been I'm going to go Dundee here, had that been Rangers and Celtic, had that been Aberdeen, I'd argue that could have been 4 or 5 even for them yesterday. Rangers obviously hit them for 4. I'd have been arguing, had your Dundee, your Kilmarnock, your Motherwell, all these kind of clubs, had they played Hibs yesterday, Hibs did exactly the same thing, I'd argue there'd have been a couple of goals free for those teams just because the way they play and how they like to obviously get forward and the way in which they try and get forward. So, yeah, I think it was massively disappointing overall from Hibs yesterday. But and also, it wasn't like Rangers. Rangers were exactly the same as Celtic today. They didn't have to work too hard to pick up the outcome and the result they did. It was quite simply just because they were ruthless in front of goal, but at the same time, it was a perfect invitation for getting a welcome victory because the opposition was so woeful defensively.
Yeah, and that's Naismith already talked about the fact we need to cut out defensive mistakes. Going to Ibrox, playing like Hibs tried to do yesterday, just for me won't work. I think Naismith next week for me has got to change the system. He's got to change the way we play, and for me, he's got to try and start getting the best out of Shankland. You know, Shankland again is dropping very deep. He's been getting very frustrated recently, which I get because he's not been getting a lot of chances. Today, he's taking his chance very well. But when we go to Ibrox, we've got to have an out ball. We've got to have a way of playing. And what we can't do, like we did today, we can't go to Ibrox and lose an early goal because if we do, we'll just get torn apart. I mean, you've got guys like Dessers there who hasn't been great, but he scored yesterday, so he'll be full of confidence. Sima, who I think actually has looked one of Rangers' best players so far this season. I think he's been really lively. We've got to keep him quiet. But Hearts have got to go there and have a way of playing. And I think for me as well, I keep going back to the fact that semi-final is huge for Stephen Naismith. And I think, again, performance matters for me. If we get beat, but we actually perform quite well, I can accept that. But if we do what we did in the final against Rangers a couple of seasons ago and just sit back and accept defeat, that I can't find acceptable. And, you know, as I said, I go on Twitter, I go on other Hearts socials just now, and every single person has got a poll out saying Naismith in or Naismith out. And everybody is saying Naismith out. And I can't disagree.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, not based on Naismith, but football alone. I mean, I've sometimes said to people that I'd rather win 1-0 every week by not playing well. Excuse me, sorry. I'd rather win 1-0 every week by not playing well than losing 1-0 and playing absolutely brilliant. But at the same time, I can take, if you're a side like a Kilmarnock or a Motherwell or whatever have you, or a so-called lesser ranked side, you can sometimes take getting beat 2-1, 1-0s, 3-1s, 3-0s, 2-0s by playing absolutely good football because it shows you're on the right track. And a manager once told me when I played, a manager once told me, give them 100%, and that's all we ask for. That's exactly what players nowadays should be doing. They should be giving 100% to the respective jerseys and seeing how it comes out of that. I'm not a massive fan of managers coming out in press conferences after games and saying, 35th to 65th minute, we played absolutely brilliant. We just couldn't get that goal. And then Celtic scored 2 goals in the last 15 minutes. So Celtic took the game by scuff of the neck after 15 minutes. I'm proud of my players. Nick Montgomery gave the proud notion yesterday after the game yesterday. And Hibs fans were absolutely knackered by the fact that Nick Montgomery coming out with the word proud after the way Hibs had performed and the scoreline.
That's the thing. I mean, there's ways to get beat. As a football fan, we know we're going to get beat. We know we're going to have to accept that. But there's a way to get beat. And today, for me, unlike Hibs yesterday, that wasn't the way to get beat. Yes, Hibs made mistakes. Rangers punished them. But like today, for example, I don't think I've ever heard Tynecastle as flat for a game against Celtic, given the fact Celtic only had 500 fans there. But the atmosphere was flat because Hearts' performance was flat. See if Hearts had started the game really on the front foot, really pressed Celtic and got after them, I think that crowd would be up for it. But we were just so flat. And hearing Naismith after the game talk about the fact we didn't defend well and all that kind of stuff, it's just excuses. It's what managers do. I know they do. And I know a lot of folk don't pay attention to what managers say after a game, but I always find it interesting to hear what they're actually going to say if they're going to take responsibility. I don't really think Naismith has done that yet. And honestly, I think these next few games are huge. But that semi-final is one for me because we play on the Sunday, so we're going to know before we go into that game it's going to be either Hibs or Aberdeen in the final. Now, I think Hearts should be beating both of those teams, but we've got to beat Rangers first, and our record against them is horrendous. It really is. I'm not confident, but we've got to go and perform.
I was speaking to Ellen Grieve put a thing on another group chat I'm on earlier on today, and she was saying she's seen hundreds of Hearts fans leaving by the time the third goal went in. And that was at 3:15, just to give the fans a bit of context here, which goes to show you everybody was leaving in their Trojans by the time Silk scored their third goal today.
It's funny because one of my mates was going to the game today. I wasn't going, but one of my mates had messaged me about 2 o'clock to say he was just on walking up to the game. And I said, you'll probably have left by 2:30. I wasn't far off it. He'd left at 2:40. I knew it was going to happen. That's the another thing. I knew it was going to happen. That performance just for me just was so flat. And, Aaron's right. A lot of Hearts fans had left. And there was a lot of empty seats there, which is disappointing to see, but I understand it. There's a real lack of connection between the fans and the board. There really is. We've got a Heart supporter on the board there. They're not making football decisions for me. Everything is just going wrong just now. And honestly, you look at the games that were called off yesterday, a lot of teams have got games in hand over us. We could be in a really, really dangerous position this next few weeks. And I just think the time is right now for the board to say, do you know what? We've made a mistake. We should have got some of their experience and they've not done it. And I really worry for this next few weeks.
See, I'm just thinking ideas in my head here, Graham. See, when you look at the next few weeks, with a massive incentive coming up, you're looking at Hearts legends, or you're thinking of Hearts legends in your head and going, well, Paul Hartley's at Cove Rangers just now. Stephen Pressel's at Brentford, so that would be not so sure. Robbie Nielsen, well, he won't be back in a long time considering obviously what's happened before. You're looking at somebody that knows the club inside out, not a Craig Levein as such. But I think Hearts needs somebody that knows the club, knows what they're looking for, and knows, yes, how to get success, but knows at the same time to play a good brand of football. But secondly, know how to get a bit of pride back at the Hearts again.
It's a fair point. And one of those names, or one of those players I'm going to mention just now, is someone I'm going to see next Friday, so I won't be on the show, because I'm actually going to Tynecastle next week for an evening with John Robertson, one of my heroes as a Hearts supporter. Someone like him, now he's already done the job before, a while ago under Romanoff, and he did okay, but he's the kind of guy that would get it. He would exactly know what Hearts fans want. But the other thing of that is, I'm always a bit sceptical of an ex-legend or an player coming back, because I don't want to be sitting in a few weeks' time. Say if Robertson got the job, for example, I wouldn't want to be sitting there going, Robertson needs to get sacked. So there's a kind of balance to have there, but I do think a guy like Robertson would come in and he would know exactly what the Hearts fans want. He would know the brand of football we want. I don't know if that'll happen, but somebody like him, for me, would be absolutely ideal.
Yeah. Right, we'll move on because we've not got a long time. Well, we've got long enough, but obviously we can be off for as long as we want. But we've only got 3 men's games and obviously the women's game to speak about. So, Kilmarnock, a very good one for them against Livingston yesterday. I thought Kilmarnock were really good. I was surprised to see after the game that David Martindale was making Lyndon Dykes comparisons about the guy Vassell for Kilmarnock. Good striker. I was speaking to Laurie Finlayson about this after the game last night. I was making a point to him that Vassell would be a pivotal player for Kilmarnock if they had, Brad Lyons, but if they had that instinctive number 9, I think that'd be a very good partnership for Kelly.
It would be. I thought Vassell was excellent yesterday. I watched the highlights last night, and he just bullied that Livingston defence. They couldn't handle him. 2 really good goals as well, although Livingston will be disappointed with how they defended the goals as well. 2 crosses into the box, really good defending. But I thought Vassell was excellent yesterday, as was Danny Armstrong. I always thought Kilmarnock would go in that game yesterday, as they called it El Plastico. I always thought they would win. I just didn't see enough from that Livingston team. Obviously, they get the penalty, which Sean Kelly sticks away, but they just didn't really offer that much yesterday. I think if Vassell gets a decent partner beside him, I know they had Christian Dodge at one point as well, who was on loan at the time, but if they could get somebody else alongside them, they could be a really decent side this season. I still think Kilmarnock will be fine this season. I still think they'll be up there. Maybe not top 6, but maybe just about 7th or whatever. But I thought yesterday they were the far better side, and they looked really aggressive. They looked like they could have even scored more yesterday. Vassell could have had a hat-trick. I think even Derek McInnes said that. But yeah, I thought Kilmarnock were very good yesterday.
I mean, there was a lot of talk about Derek McInnes and Rangers and all that, and unsurprisingly, but I think it's going to be similar to Aberdeen. I think Derek McInnes is going to be Kilmarnock for a good 4 or 5 years. So that stability will be massive for him, because they can build a team. He can build a team that's going to be not as good, but he can build a team that's going to be that bit straightforward and that bit of a balance again. And Kilmarnock are making a right difference this season. Yeah, Armstrong's going to have a good start to the season from his perspective, but Kelly all around just look a lot better. I think getting rid of some duds in the dressing room, I'm not going to name names here publicly, but I think getting rid of some duds in the dressing room has helped.
Absolutely. I mean, I just think Kilmarnock, and I said this to Laurie as well, I think they look a lot more solid defensively now. I think Alexis Stewart-Findlay is a really good signing, and Robbie Dees as well, a really good signing as well. I think when you've got a solid defence, it gives you a platform to build on. But as I said to Laurie as well a couple of weeks ago, they maybe don't score enough goals. And I had mentioned Vassell. That has to give him a lot of confidence. And you know what? I think managers suit certain clubs. Derek McInnes suited Aberdeen, and I think he definitely suits Kilmarnock. It's not going to be a brilliant style of football, but he'll win you games. He knows how to win games in this league. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to get a team together. I think the big thing for him will be that he doesn't get injuries in the next few weeks until January at least, and he can maybe look to strengthen that forward area to give Vassell a little bit kind of more options. The worry for me, if I was a Kelly fan, and Laurie, if you're watching this as well, I know it's not January yet, but we've not got long to go. The worry for me would be, can they keep hold of Danny Armstrong in the January window? Because if I'm looking at anybody for a potential moving on, it'll be him.
And he's probably one of those players as well that he'd probably be linked with a Hibs, a Hearts, and Aberdeen. Yeah, he could probably try his luck in England, but if he was to go anywhere, it probably would be to a so-called bigger club in Scotland.
100%. I would quite happily take him now. We've got Barry Mackay out. Forrest done okay recently. Lowry wasn't great today, but Danny Armstrong's a guy that I quite like. He's got a great delivery. He's got a bit of pace. He can score goals as well. That's the kind of guy you want. And I think Hibs as well would definitely be after him, although they do have Martin Boyle and Ellie Ewan, so it'll be a case of where would they play. But I think Danny Armstrong's a really good player. Anytime I've seen him, I'm impressed. Took his goal well yesterday, but he's just, what I like about him, he's direct. That's what you want from a winger. You want to be direct and take people on, and he does that. So yeah, I think if they can keep hold of him in January, that'll be huge. But, Kerr yesterday, he was just so good. He was just so dominant against them. And Livingston, for me, they are a worry for me a little bit because I just don't see enough quality in that side. I like David Martindale. He's a really good manager. He gets the best out of that team. He always has. And I think they punch above their weight a lot. But they don't look like they've got enough quality for me, Livingston.
I'm getting the feeling, I'm not admitting it, Joel Newbley has an interesting point in the papers yesterday. I think the Livingston players are they're not going to go and admit it publicly, because if they admit it publicly, first and foremost, they'll get in trouble from the manager. And secondly, I think Livingston would have something to say on the matter. But I think some Livingston players are using this period to showcase themselves. Something that Newbley kind of hinted at yesterday in the papers.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, let's be honest. The one player is going to leave Livy in the January window, it'll be him, because he's probably a better player than Livingston, and not just to Livingston, but I think he's a better player. I don't think they're getting the best out of him. Again, he's someone I would love to see at Hearts. He's strong, he's quick, he's physical, something we don't have up front just now. He would take a bit of pressure off Shankland. I think Newbley, for me, has been fantastic with Livingston, and when he was at Arbroath as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. And I know that they've got new owners and that coming in, more money to probably spend. But I just think there's something not quite right about Livingston just now. And David Martindale as well, for me, just doesn't seem to have that bounce that he normally does. Yesterday's a massive letdown, because I think he'd have gone out of that game thinking, right, we need to try and get points here. And they've not really done enough. So yeah, I think there's a real worry for Livingston. And that's why I've already said numerous times that I think they will be around 11th and in relegation trouble. I hope I'm wrong, because I do like them, but I just think there's something not quite clicking there.
I know Bruce Anderson was also linked with a move to Georgia this summer, and then I know he's obviously been improving in his game recently in terms of finishing off chances in the final third, whatever have you. But I think Bruce Anderson has even admitted himself, I'm using this rest of the season to try and get myself a good move moving forward. And it's a sad state of affairs at Livingston, because they have been respectable the period they've been back in the Premiership. And you hope this isn't the beginning of the end a little bit.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think it could be. That's why I think they're going to really struggle this season. And I said at the start of the season when Michael asked for our predictions, I said Livingston would struggle. I just don't see enough quality in them. You've just mentioned Bruce Anderson there again. I think he's a far better player than Livingston. They've got players that are, for me, workhorses, but they don't really have enough quality in that team, especially going forward. I think defensively they look okay at times. I think Oberle is a decent defender. Midfield, I quite like Scott Pittman, decent player as well, but they just don't have that real X factor signing. So yeah, I think they are a real worry for me this season. And listen, they're going to come to Tynecastle in a couple of weeks' time, and they'll probably end up winning. But I just don't see enough. About them. And I think, again, we talk about David Martindale a lot. I mean, if David Martindale was to leave Livingston, I mean, where really could he go? Because he's not going to get one of the Old Firm jobs. Could he potentially be a candidate for a team like Hearts? Do you think he'd go to England?
I think he would go to...
Are we talking...
He's obviously been linked with a Fleetwood job in the past. And I think something League 1, League 2 type in England would probably do for him, as long as it was right, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair shout. I don't think he would go to the Championship. I think that's a bit high too level for him. But yeah, I mean, a League One or League Two side, I know Fleetwood have had a number of different managers recently. Obviously, Joey Barton was there, I think Scott Brown was there. So they don't have that stability. But you know what you're going to get with David Martindale. Anyone looking at his CV, he's a very, very good manager. He gets the best out of a decent bunch of players. They're not great, but a decent bunch of players. So I think I know that Reagan's talked about Hearts before getting David Martindale. He's an all right manager, but would he be the right fit for Hearts? I've just talked about Derek McInnes being the right fit for Kilmarnock. I don't think David Martindale for me would be the right fit for Hearts, the style of football he plays. But there's no doubt he gets the best out of a decent side. But I honestly worry for Livingston this season. I think they are going to be involved in a relegation battle, and this might be the time where they go back to the Championship. I hope not, but I just think they're going to struggle this season.
I was just getting my head here, Graham. This is an interesting outtake to make here, but it wouldn't surprise me if moving forward he goes to Ireland or Northern Ireland, because I know when obviously he was going through his tough periods, such as being in jail and everything, the SFA wouldn't put him through his badges quite simply because they've got this silly little thing about if you've been locked up, you can't do because of your criminal record and things like that, which I think, as much as I trust and believe in the system, I think they need to look at it in more definitive lines, like being in jail because of drugs, right? As much as that misdemeanors has hurt you when you were younger, that misdemeanors isn't the here and now. It's hurt you, it's hurt you 10, 20 years ago, which is why I think the SFA need to look at things definitively here. For me, in terms of criminal records, I think the SFA need to be looking at, has he committed an offence in the last 5 years? Because if not, we're going to see more people dropping by the wayside, not just in football, but society as well. When Martindale took his badges, Graham, he obviously did them through the Irish FA because the SFA simply wouldn't take him on. It wouldn't surprise me if he was like, right, you gave me the gesture of doing my badges for you, I'm going to go manage in your league.
It's a fair point. And I think I said to Michael as well, what I like about Martindale is the fact that he is honest. He's been very open and honest about his past. You know, not a lot of folk would do that, but he has been honest. And, you know, he has reformed himself. He spoke about it very openly. He has reformed himself. He's been down a road he didn't want to go down, so it's happened. But I think David Martindale is a very, very good manager. But again, you look at what's happening in England as well. You look at the guy Tonali for Newcastle. I think it was he's potentially looking at a 7-month ban for whatever he's done. And I think at times you've got to rehabilitate people. You've got to rehabilitate people. What difference is it going to make to leave them out of the game for 8 or 9 months? You look at the whole betting thing with Kyle Lafferty. Look how many games he missed. You've got to rehabilitate folk, not punish them for. Yes, okay, it's maybe not great, but you've got to rehabilitate folk, not take the career away from them. And I think at times it's a really bad road to go down when you start doing that.
Absolutely. Right, we'll go back onto the Reds in a minute just to finish off, but we'll go to the women's game because I watched the Celtic Rangers women's game earlier. I know you were busy with family, so you probably didn't see the game, Graham, but I didn't watch the first half, so I can't comment on the first half, but Celtic took the lead through Caitlin Hayes, a very good header. I don't know who she beat to the ball, but very good header all the same. Rangers scored an equaliser through Kirsty McLean and got the winner through Rio Hardy. Speaking of a few folk, because obviously I do women's stuff in SFF podcast, speaking of a few guys I know, or girls should I say, that I know within SFF community, and obviously a few women's players and all that. And I was making the point that Celtic are, my honest opinion, one of those that they're renowned for being very, very good defensively. Far from that. I thought Howard, Arnott, Rio Hardy, McLean, I thought they got right into Celtic's faces this afternoon, and when they were on the forward line, they did very, very well. Now, I was away making my lunch between 45th and 60th minute mark, but I seen Hayes score her header. But 60th to 80th minute mark, it was all Rangers. It was them on the ball, it was them in the ascendancy. And I was saying to people, if Rangers not won that game, Joe Potter ripping and sense going, we haven't done enough in the final third. So for Rangers to go win it the manner that they did was deserved. Also, yeah, I was surprised with how lethargic, if that's a good word to say, Celtic were.
Yeah, I mean, I think Celtic have done well on the final loans. There's no doubt about that. But I watched a bit of the game, and what I liked as well is the fact that they looked a decent crowd at that game as well. You know, for a women's game, a derby game,
Totally.
it's a really good crowd. What was that?
I said totally, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it looked a really good crowd, and fair play to the folk that turned up. And I think Rangers did. I think Rangers did deserve to win it at the end. I did watch some of it, and I did think they did deserve to win it. But I mean, Celtic, you know, they maybe weren't great defensively, but I think they've always still got a threat going forward. But the one thing I wanted to ask you about, because you know more about this than me, but again, it's something I've touched on before. I know you've mentioned money before, but there's only about 10, 11 games played already, and already Celtic, Rangers, and Glasgow City are pulling miles away from everyone else. Hearts won today 5-1 against Motherwell. Eva Ola's doing a magnificent job with the women's team, by the way. Some of the signings she's made have been fantastic. But again, is it a bit of a worry that, again, we're looking at 3 teams pulling away from everyone else?
Well, it's funny how you say that because I hadn't properly done my homework in the women's game. When I say I hadn't properly done my homework, what I mean when I say that is I didn't actually look, I didn't realise a couple of stats that were thrown out there. It's like, for example, Glasgow City had a goal difference like plus 25 or whatever have you. I know they've got a game in hand, but they had a goal difference of plus 25. Rangers and Celtic's goal differences were plus 47 and plus 46. It came up when Hardy scored. It came up when Hardy scored her winning goal, Graham. It was her 14th goal this season. So, and then it came up, I was like, I'm going in my head going, it's October. And she scored 14 goals. And I know they've obviously had a few games, and this is the point we're getting at here. I know there's been a few games where they've obviously like scored 12 against Montrose and 5 against Aberdeen, and they have hit a number of teams by 4s, 5s, 6s, and even double figures. But yeah, I think there will be a difference again. I think you're saying that. And I was saying to a few people, that 4th to 8th area within the SWPL1 table is very open. You've got Hearts that, yeah, it's a good one from today, but 6 goals in 2 games prior to today shows where they're at. It shows how they've still got a bit of deficiencies defensively. Hibs as well, 7 at Ibrox last week, obviously much improved today, of course, but I think Gareth Scott has still got a lot of work to do there. Aberdeen slowly, what they've called a transition year, they've slowly developed a good team again. Motherwell, they obviously got a fantastic win against Dundee United last week, but they're all just a little bit short to say when they play the top 3. And that's the feeling I'm getting about it to me. Glasgow City have actually had a really good start to the season. They have been a wee bit disappointed with performances in games, in particular last Sunday at Aberdeen, because they won the game 3-2, but they were 2-1 down 3 minutes after the restart. Yeah, they got the reaction they desired, but I think it goes to show you that they are there to be got at, but ultimately, these top 3 teams, in my honest opinion, are just that bit more streetwise. That's going to be that difference between them being that top 3. Let's be honest, there is still a freeway within the league table. There's still that 3 teams: Glasgow City, Rangers, and Celtic. There's the 4th to 8th, which is Pats, Hibs, Motherwell, Partick Thistle, and Aberdeen. And then there's the teams around the bottom end: Spartans, Dundee United, Hamilton, and Montrose. And yeah, had the Glasgow City Montrose game been ahead today, I was expecting Glasgow City to have had a fair few, to be honest with you. But at the same time, yeah, I think we've still got a long way to go. But this is the thing where, as much as the Sky Sports coverage is good for the women's game, they're going to, and it's unsurprising, but they're going to cover the better teams, which means where does it leave the teams at the bottom end of the table? Now, the financial incentives from the governing bodies is exactly massive. However, exactly at the same time, these teams deserve publicity. I know Montrose were very, very quick to come out and make their feelings known after initially not getting the game against Celtic televised after they won the league on Flag Day. And it turned out, obviously, Lynx Park needed a wee bit of their facility clarified in terms of They needed a sanction point for obviously filming the game, which was why they didn't actually get it announced initially. But there is going to be a 3-horse race. For Hearts, I still think they've a wee bit to go. And drawing against Montrose, with all due respect, as much as Montrose are slowly, surely evolving and developing and improving in the league, at the same time, it's not a good look for obviously Hearts when they're drawing games. Games are expected to go and win. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done, absolutely. But yeah, Rangers are showing how good they are. I was making a point to somebody earlier today, Graham, that I think under Joe Potter they've got that bit more about them this time. I think there's a far more superior mentality about them this time. There wasn't that under Malky Thompson, I felt. And I think that's been the difference. I think the mentality shift has been the difference at Rangers, and I think that's been a massive thing for them. So, and then we're in, and we're going to end off with the Kevin Holt show. Where do you start if you're a Park-Thistle fan?
I was genuinely really surprised because I thought Partick would really have a go at United, and I thought they were causing problems. I don't think anyone expected that. You know, a defender scoring a hat-trick, and it wasn't a penalty. But United were excellent yesterday. They really were. I mean, they could have even scored a few more. That was just a frightening performance. And I know that maybe a few weeks ago, a lot of folk like myself probably thought United weren't quite clicking yet. They look like they are now. To go at a place like Firhill and score 5 goals was a magnificent performance. And they're already 4 points ahead of Raith. I know Raith's game got postponed yesterday. But United have got strength and depth. And you look at that front line, they've got Tony Watt and Louis Moult. I mean, that is a ridiculously good partnership for a championship team. They just look really, really strong now, and I now will be very surprised if United don't come straight back up because they've got a stronger squad. I think Jim Goodwin's done a great job, but that is just that's a hammering yesterday, and I was genuinely surprised at how poor Partick were. But you've got to give credit to United because they were excellent.
3 of the goals are avoidable. The penalty is the penalty. Holt's second goal, I'm unsure of that one. But there's 3 goals in there from a Partick perspective that is avoidable.
100%. I mean, I know Brian Graham will be absolutely raging about it. You know, sorry, not Brian Graham. I think they'll be disappointed with the goals they've lost, and it's just one of these things. I suppose you've got to put it down to just one of these bad days at the office. But I genuinely don't think anybody looked at that game yesterday and thought this will be comfortable for United. And Partick did make it far too easy. But yeah, it's just a really bad day for them. But they've got to learn quickly because against top teams like United, who are a top team, let's be honest, especially in the Championship, you can't make those kind of mistakes. But United, honestly, yesterday, they were so clinical. And like I say, for a defender to score a hat-trick, very, very unheard of. But they could have scored more. You know, I had the radio on in the background yesterday, listening to the open mics and stuff, and United looked a real threat yesterday. But like I said, that partnership of Moult and Watt, it's ridiculous for the Championship. They're far too good for that league. And I will be really surprised if they don't come straight back up. And probably winning the league, I will say quite comfortably, I think. I think Raith could have a decent attempt at them, but I just think United are going to be far, far too strong for this league.
I hate making premature presumptions here, but we've been speaking on the show, Graham, about how teams are playing it from the back and it's absolutely crucifying them at this precise moment in time. And I don't think crucifying is that too big a word for what I'm going to say here. I think going down to the Championship could be the best thing for Dundee United because they'll likely, I'm not saying they will, they'll likely win the league at a canter, and they've got such a good system now with the way they play that they're going to go into Premiership and they're going to be a far superior unit to what they were under Liam Fox, Jack Ross, and initially Goodwin.
You would like to think so. I mean, Goodwin's got plenty of experience. You like to think that squad will come back up and compete a lot better. And that's the thing, they've got to compete. I know it's going to be hard, but they've got to try and compete. And again, when they come up, because I think they will, it's about bringing the right players in then for the Premiership. Who they're going to get in, I don't know. But they've got to be competitive next season because last season they were nowhere near it. They were miles off it. And I genuinely thought at the start of the season, and I think we mentioned it on the show before, I thought United might struggle this season. I didn't expect them to be quite as strong as they are, though. I mean, they really do look quite strong. I know it's only 4 points advantage. Racing got a game in hand. But I think United will win the league quite comfortably now. I really do. They've got such a strong squad. Jim Goodwin's getting the best out of that squad. But it's when they come up, can they be competitive, or are they going to go straight back down again?
I think they've got a difference about them now. I don't think it's Ryan Edwards or Charlie Mulgrew where they'll come out in the public and say they gave 100% to Dundee United. But we all know that they clearly didn't, because there's obviously been reports in the press, and there's obviously been public interviews by the both of them coming out and saying otherwise since. They have a far more superior and far more decisive defensive partnership now. Declan Gallagher and Kevin Holt have really done well. I think they're one of the meanest. I think they're one of the meanest defences in British football just now, which is a stark difference to what they were last year.
Yeah, 100%. They definitely do have a far better spin of that team, and that's got to stand them in good stead. Yesterday, as I said, I don't think anyone expected them to go to Firhill and score 5. That was a genuine shock for me when I seen that result coming through. But I think as well, even if you look at the league now, there's not a lot between the top and probably the top 6 teams. Partick, even though they got hammered yesterday, they're not miles off the pace. But I do wonder now if that will affect them going forward to get beat 5-0 by United at home. Is that going to have a negative impact on them for the rest of the season? I hope it doesn't. But could it have a negative impact on them?
I'm trying to remember the game now, Graham. They got beat handsomely off of somebody. It wasn't Dundee, because I think they actually had a pretty decent record against Dundee last year. I think they only lost 1 or 2 games against them, and it wasn't by handsome outcomes either. I'm adamant it was Ayr or I think it was Ayr to beat Partick by a fair margin in a game. And after that game, Partick went 5 or 6 without a win. And I'm hoping the same doesn't happen here.
Yeah, and I think that's what they've got to be hoping for as well, because they're not miles away, they're not that far off the pace. And I do still believe they could maybe finish like top 3, but they've got to put that result behind them. And even if you look back at the game yesterday as well, Ayr against Dunfermline, Ayr won the game 1-0. I think deservedly so. And again, I was surprised at that, because I thought Dunfermline at home would have been a bit stronger than that. But fair play to Ayr. That's a brilliant result for them.
The wee Bowen said that James McPake had to change his formation, which just tells you how very, very good Ayr were yesterday.
Yeah, I think Lee Bullen's a really good manager. Really good manager. Again, probably could he be a Premiership manager at some point in the future?
I think he can be a Premiership manager right now.
Yeah, I like the way he sets his team up, and I like the way he tries to get into play, and to go East End Park, keep a clean sheet, win 1-0, fair play to them. But honestly, I've said to Michael before, I've always thought the Championship was one of the best leagues in Scotland, because it is very competitive. Nobody would expect United to go there and win 5-0 yesterday. I don't think a lot of folk might have thought Ayr would win 1-0 at East End Park. The Championship's a really good league, and I think there are still 2 or 3 teams in that league who could come up. But for me, you kind of look past United just now to come straight back up, because they just look far too strong. And fair play to Jim Goodwin, because after what happened at Aberdeen, you're thinking, what's he going to do now? Can he get United up? But he's looking like he's got a bit of a settled team there. He's got that front line, which again just looks so strong. I would be honestly amazed if they don't come straight back up quite comfortably.
Do you know how United had that 4-year stint in the Championship when they quit some when they were in disarray? After seeing them against Spartans in the Viaplay, and I've spoken to Tony Watt, I've spoken to a few players in recent weeks about the Viaplay, but also about how things have changed. And they weren't surprised with that results. They've come out in the public and said they weren't surprised by that results. But after seeing United last season, after seeing that Spartans result, after seeing the fact they hadn't qualified from an arguably a winnable Viaplay Cup group, I feared the worst for Goodwin. I was like, this is going to be another disastrous story, not just for Jim Goodwin, but for Dundee United. But God, have they turned it around and turned it around fast.
See, in terms of Jim Goodwin, now I don't want to disrespect United here, but do you think that he would now, after what happened to Aberdeen, obviously he's doing well just now at United, do you think he'd be looking at this now thinking, I can maybe get a bigger job than United? Like, I know it's hard after what happened to Aberdeen, but do you think he can now look at that and think, actually, maybe I can get a bigger club on the back of what I've done at United?
I think it's an interesting question, Graham, because Dundee United's a big club in its own right. And I think a lot of Dundee United fans would be upset if he was to leave the club. Just when I say the word upset, I mean upset just based on if he was to get Hearts or a Hibs job. I think they'd be incredibly upset to see him leaving for a club that's arguably rivals to them, or top six rivals, or European rivals. And I think if we were to look at Dundee United, I think they're just as big a club as Hearts, Hibs, and Aberdeen, based on history, based on success. And yeah, I mean, Dundee United is obviously a big club with a big history. So they're obviously they're a yo-yo club, or they're a yo-yo club in the aspect they've had specific allegations based on the last decade, but they are still a big club in today's terms. And if Goodwin wants to move on from United, I think it's to England. I don't think it's to Hearts or Hibs. I think the only way he gets the Hearts or Hibs job is quite simply if maybe things weren't working out at Dundee United. That was the only way that I think he would get a bigger job. So I think he's at Dundee United for the long haul. I think unless there's an Aberdeen collapse under Goodwin, I think he's at Aberdeen. I think he's at Dundee United for the long haul. Unless a club in England was to come call, I think he's still at Martindale. I think if a club comes in for him, I think he's away to England.
No, I think that's a fair point. I think England will be a good move for him actually, because he is doing well, but a lot of folk will look back at that Aberdeen stint and think it was a bit of a failure. But to be fair, what he's doing just now is really impressive. I know we're just going to be going shortly, but I just want to touch on very quickly, Dave, because it is the 1 year anniversary of VAR coming out to Scotland. I know you put a post out yesterday about this.
Oh.
Do you think it's been a failure? Because I think do you think it's been a failure, or I think a lot of folk do think it's been a failure?
Before I answer that question, Graham, I seen an interesting point on Twitter this afternoon, and it's through Kyle Gunn, who's like a freelance journalist, and he was making a point about how Sky Sports were using the footage of Ryan Strain's sending off a few weeks ago against Rangers, and how they were using that as like an example, basically. I think something a bit more controversial would have done it for me. Like Andy Considine gets sent off for St Johnstone against Kilmarnock, just to give you an example. That Hearts Celtic game last year, just to see how they actually did it, that day in question. I think the Ryan Strain one is a basic, let's get publicity out there, and let's give the fans and the footballing community this perception of how we do it. I'd have liked to have seen something a bit more complicated than what it was a few weeks ago. So I'm going to start with that perspective, because although what Sky Sports did in their documentary was very, very good, I'd have liked it to have been something a bit more complicated. On VAR, there's a lot of people saying that it's improving. When I say people, I mean pundits, and I'm disagreeing with that fact, because we're continuing to see incidents within the game that quite simply is disrupting the game, is a frustrating aspect for managers, because obviously it's cost them financially, like maybe finishing 6th to 7th and all that kind of stuff. It's the 1 year anniversary today. It's the perfect opportunity to get it vanished and faster. I understand that Scottish football needs it for progression referees, but it disrupts the flow of games in the Premiership. I mean, I watch Championship League 1 and League 2 games consistently, and there's actually a very good flow to those games. I'll go watch Aberdeen, or I'll go watch Dundee, Hearts, whatever have you, either on TV or in the flesh, and I'll compare that to watching Arbroath and Dundee United and Raith Rovers and Dunfermline and games on the telly on a Friday night. And there's a totally different speed to the games now in the lower reaches of Scottish football. And the Premiership has become this stop-start. which is quite simply not ideal. So the benefit of Scottish football, it needs vanished, but I can't see that happening anytime soon.
No, I agree, and I think for me, there's a lot of things that need to be taken into account. You've got now, even if you look back at the game that they showed on Sky Sports, it just looked, there was a lot of folk in that little VAR room, a lot of folk in there, a lot of noises. For me, it just doesn't seem right. And I think as well, it just, some of these decisions again take far too long. You know, if you're at a game, you don't actually know what the decision is. Like at Tynecastle, all you can see is, for example, today at the game, it showed on the screen that I could see checking for offside or checking for penalty. It just takes far too long. And again, it's ruining the enjoyment of football for me. And what's the one thing you want as a football fan? To see your team score. See, nowadays, I very rarely celebrate a goal because I think straight away VAR's going to rule it out. That's not what I want to see. And again, if you look as well, some of the decisions as well, the handball rule, spoke about before, the handball rule seems to be very, very subjective. What's handball, what's not. Offsides should be pretty clear, but again, it's not. I just think some of these decisions take far too long. And I've always said as well, VAR for me isn't the issue. That's the technology. It's the referees that use it. And I just don't think the officials use it properly. You know, you look back at that Hearts Celtic game last season, we all know that Michael Smith handled the ball. I was a surprise to anyone that wasn't given us a penalty. And I just don't see it improving anytime soon. Today, again, in the game at Tynecastle, how on earth Nick Walsh gives a penalty for a non-challenge on Kyogo, and then how VAR gives it, thankfully justice was done because Hatate missed. But that's the kind of thing that should be getting picked up, and it wasn't. I just think the referees are just not good enough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I better watch what I'm saying about referees, considering I was involved at a club last year, but I'll leave it there. Thanks to everybody for joining in. Much appreciated. We'll be back on Wednesday. I almost forgot that game. We'll be back on Wednesday for the Celtic game. Review that against Atletico Madrid. We'll review Aberdeen and Rangers on Thursday, and then Friday we're on again to look ahead to Premiership games this coming weekend. So for myself and Graham, thank you very much, and we'll catch up very, very shortly.
The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live